Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Netam Pumsam Viragas Syat Tvaya Kevalina Mrisha Manyase Yad Yupasamam Sneha Pasha Nikrintanam Tetam Pumsham Viragasyat Tvaya Kevalina Mrisha Manyase Yad Yupasamam Sneha Pasha Nikrintanam Netam Pumsham Viragasyat Tvaya Kevalina Mrisha Manyase Yad Upasamam Sneha Pasha Nikrintanam Not Itam in this way. Pumsham of persons. Viragha renunciation. Syat is possible. Tvaya by you. Kevalina Mrisha possessing knowledge falsely. Manyase, you think. Yadi, if. Upasamam, renunciation of material enjoyment. Snehapasha, the bonds of affection. Nikrintanam, cutting. Translation. Prajapati Daksha continued, if you think that simply awakening the sense of renunciation will detach one from the material world, I must say that unless full knowledge is awakened, simply changing dresses as you have done cannot possibly bring detachment. Purport. Prajapati Daksha was correct in stating that changing one's dress cannot detach one from this material world. The sannyasis of Kali Yuga who change their robes from white to saffron and then think they can do whatever they like are more abominable than materialistic grihastas. This is not recommended anywhere. Prajapati Daksha was right in pointing out this defect. But he did not know that Narad Muni had aroused the spirit of renunciation in the Haryasvas and Savalasvas through full knowledge. Such enlightened renunciation is desirable. One should enter the renounced order with full knowledge, jnana vairagya, for the perfection of life is possible for one who renounces this material world in that way. This elevated stage can be reached very easily, as supported by the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam 127. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Jana Yantyasu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Ahaitukam. By rendering devotional service under the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. If one seriously engages in devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, jnana and vairagya are automatically manifested in one's person. There is no doubt of this. Prajapati Daksha's accusation that Narad had not actually elevated his sons to the platform of knowledge was not factual. All the sons of Prajapati Daksha had first been raised to the platform of jnana and had then automatically renounced this world. In summary, unless one's knowledge is awakened, renunciation cannot take place. For without elevated knowledge, one cannot give up attachment for material enjoyment. So here we have a continuation of Prajapati Daksha's discussion. So we're going to find that this is a typical discussion. Now, typical means amongst those who are educated and knowledgeable. But a reflection of that will be, you'll see that in any discussion, is that what the correct points will be used in an argument or discussion. But the perspective on it will be not used correctly. Right? Because here, Daksha is talking about dharma, but he is in specific referring to renunciation. But the difficulty is he's not viewing it from the platform of renunciation. He's viewing it from the platform of dharma. And of dharma, he's reviewing it from the platform not so much of the devotional, the renounced direction, but from the direction for artha and kama, which is the typical path. You follow dharma, you get artha. From artha, you get kama. Then you see that, okay, been there, done that. Then you take up renunciation. And then, if you're lucky, then you move into bhakti. Otherwise, you start the cycle again. So, then Daksha is then accusing Narad Muni that he is not a friend of anybody. He's creating trouble. Because he's seeing that Prajapati Daksha's plan that works for him. In other words, he is on the platform of karma. So to engage in karma yoga, even if you're looking at it from the devotional point of view, you're going to take your karma and you're going to connect all of your values and desires and needs to Krishna. And then by doing that, according to the rules, we have to remember Daksha is a pious person, then you will slowly gain the knowledge with practice, and then from that be able to come to that platform of actual renunciation. What is the point of this renunciation he has not disclosed. Because his actual point is not about the renunciation should be for bhakti. His point is renunciation should only be there after you've performed all your material duties. So he is someone who's very expert, that's the meaning of daksha, at performing material duties, at family life. And he is expecting his sons to be the same, which is natural. But what he's forgetting is there's also the point is you don't become a parent unless you can save your child from death. So Narad Muni has done Daksha a great favor by taking his sons who had the qualification and brought them to the transcendental platform. So that means Prajapati Daksha's work was already done by Narad Muni. So he's actually the friend. But because Daksha's attachment is there, he's misapplying this principle and taking dharma and applying it for artha and kama rather than dharma for moksha, bhakti. Because dharma is the platform that we perform our activities from. You have to have a proper platform, otherwise it'll be whimsical, speculative. That's the modern concept. Everyone just does what they like. And when it gets too wild, then some restrictions will be created because it creates trouble. So the idea is that you have a common platform everyone functions in. So Daksha's not seeing that the point is to bring it to transcendence. Now, if you can do the top, why you would not do that? Right? If you have the qualification that you could be doing your university degree, why would you be fiddling around with something else, something lower? Right? Like sometimes you have people exceptionally qualified at 12, they can go to university. Now would you say, no, why you should go to university? He should get the junior high experience. So that's Daksha. And Narad Muni is saying, no, they can do university, they should go to university. There's much more glory in that. Right? Is there any glory a 12-year-old going to junior high? No. Any glory of a 12-year-old going to university? Yes. Does that make sense? So that's the point, is that since it's a process to bring you to that end, Daksha doesn't have the vision to see the end. He just knows it's there. But Narad Muni lives there. So he can see, here, they're qualified, they can do this. So in other words, how many are doing this? Right? We're going, the rest of the Bhagavatam will hardly ever see this. Before this, we've hardly seen this. So those who can, should. And those who can't, then like Daksha, they should follow the process, be grihastas, pay their debts, work in knowledge, come to the platform of renunciation, and then move beyond. That's the standard. But one has to know actually what the goal is. Otherwise, if one doesn't know the goal, one will miss the goal. If one doesn't know what the actual purpose is, one will get caught up in the process. And even worse, most people get caught up in the environment in which the process should be performed. Right? Getting everything materially perfect, but never actually using it. And even if they use it, never actually getting the real goal. So the whole point is one should know the whole thing. Because if one doesn't, it doesn't progress well. Right? Because then you can make the connections. If the ultimate point is develop love for Krishna, okay, and that's done through endeavor, then how is my endeavor bringing me closer to love to Krishna? Right? And therefore, then, what things from my field of activities are actually useful to make that endeavor that will end in bhakti? So that's what one has to do. That's what one has to look at. So that's what Narad Muni's point is. And Daksha is just looking at the scenario. I have sons, they should be grihastas, and at the end of life, when they're too old to do anything else, then they can renounce. Right? Like that. You don't have any teeth, you can't chew anyway. Now you're so, detached from eating. You know, I mean, that's okay. Better than being attached and you can't eat. but it's not that glorious. It's okay. So this is Narad Muni's point. So Prajapati Daksha makes a good point that it's not about the dress. It isn't. But that's not actually a real argument here, because for Narad Muni, it's about real knowledge and real renunciation. He doesn't actually know who his brother is. So he's just taking it that anybody who would get in the way of the fruitive activities is a nonsense. So therefore Narad Muni must be a nonsense, therefore he's not an actual renunciant. Rather than fruitive activities are to bring you to the path of karma, Gyan, which is to bring you to the path of bhakti. So therefore he's doing good work. Like that. So like that one has to. Yeah. So then here, real renunciation, or real knowledge, means knowledge of your relationship with Krishna. With that, then you can actually give up the world. Because it's not about giving up the world. That's why for Narad Muni, it's not about the renunciation. It's about developing love for Krishna. Right? Does that make sense? Sometimes we get into the thing, I have to give up my bad habits. That's correct. But that's not the goal. That's actually just elements that are supportive of the actual goal, which is love for Krishna. Right? So if we develop renunciation but not develop love for Krishna, then it's a nice waste of time. Right? And if we don't develop renunciation and don't develop love for Krishna, that's a useless waste of time. Right? It's a not nice waste of time. Right? So that's Devahuti's point. That performance of your duties should bring you to the point of religious life, right? Because the aspects of varna, or your occupation, are meant that it improves the quality of your ashram. Performing the activities properly in your ashram, that should result in renunciation. And someone who is situated in renunciation, now if that doesn't bring one to the point of bhakti, then that whole process is a waste of time. So the whole point is if you don't develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then all your pious deeds and renunciation are just a waste of time. So she's not even including impious activities. Right? So that's the point. That's what Narad Muni is pointing out. But Daksha doesn't catch this. He's not that mature. He's expert, but he's not a master. Right? His name is expert, not master. Right. Okay. Any questions on this? Yes. Here's this gizmo. You have to speak into this gizmo.
In the case of the Haryashvars, it was perfect, no? Yet in our circumstance we live in this society, wouldn't it be beneficial to work together with both Dharma and also, of course, devotional service, because otherwise it would be useless to work only on Dharma, but give sometimes devotees are like, I have said this many times, that we don't have the feet on the ground, no? And then also it might be not beneficial, just only focusing on the renunciation and bhakti, but not Dharma.
Which world do you live in? Who's focusing on renunciation and bhakti these days? Go ahead, knock me out. Who? You know what I'm saying? As a community, is it about renunciation here? You know what I'm saying? The morning program's about bhakti, and then the rest of the day? You know what I'm saying? Now, if you had said this back in the 80s, I would agree with you. But today, just the concept that there is such a thing as dharma and renunciation, that's news to most people. You know what I'm saying? Just being a social, nice guy, being good, being part of the community, all first-class pranamoy stuff, that's like top of the line here. You know? That's the reality what we're dealing with. Now, what we have to see is that, is it not Dharma? Is renunciation the activities of Dharma, renunciation not Dharma? Is Bhakti not the real Dharma of the soul? So they all go together. It's not one or the other. You can't have one or the other, especially us. Means, sorry for anybody coming from an actual pious background, is as Mlechas and Yavanas, coming up to the platform as sense gratification, we're doing pretty good, KFC is not sense gratification. KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. This is not sense gratification. A one-night stand is not sense gratification. They're too drunk. They don't even know what happened. They have nothing to eat. Their eating is basically useless, unless if you hang out in those 2-star, 3-star, chefs and eat with their food, then maybe you get a touch of something. But their eating is basically useless. They're sleeping. How many people get good sleep? Their mating is a joke. And they're defending, except, if they push the little red button, then you get some big bang out of it. But other than that, it's, who's feels safe? Before the farmer, he was on his farm, he felt safe. Now, who feels? So, as far as even with sense gratification, the Mlechas don't even have that. That's like light years ahead of their position. So, the only way to come to the platform of Dharma is through Bhakti. There is no other path. We're not pious by birth. That's why I said, if you're a smarta here, hey, my apologies. You understand? So it's the reality. It's not a matter of words. Picking out the nice words that fit into the modern concept of really good and wonderful social, the ideals that we're looking for so that I can have gain and safety. Right? It's about looking at what do they mean. So that's what Bhagavatam's bringing out. So what Narad Muni is pointing out here is for these personalities, they could function on that level, so why wouldn't they? Is he going and saying this to Daksha? Is Narad Muni preaching to Daksha he should take sannyas? No. Why? Because his position is to be engaged in karma. Right? Does that make sense? So the point is Narad Muni knows how to preach to everyone according to their position. So it's being pointed out here, because this is 6th canto, we're getting ready for 7th canto, right, where you're going to introduce pure devotional service. Right? So we have to introduce the point that it's not about justice, right? That's a big thing for us, right? With Ajamil, it's all about justice. That blows our idea out of the water. If everything's just, then the world's perfect. No. If there's bhakti, the world's perfect. And then here, if there's karma or there's jnana, it's perfect. No, if there's bhakti, it's perfect. So the whole point of economics, justice, morality, these are things that are very dear to the common person. But they're not even on the platform of Dharma. Dharma is the next level of consciousness up. Economics, justice, and morality, these are the platform of extended sense gratification. These are for sophisticated animals. And officially it's defined as atheistic. Because it's not about God. It's about moralism so that there's good economics. And the only reason there's justice is that justice is for everybody else, not for me. It's for everybody else so that no one steals my money. If I can cleverly take theirs, hey, that's cool. But if they take mine, I want justice. Right? And if what I did is too obvious, okay, then I'll agree that, okay, there has to be justice. But if I could do it in a subtle way that nobody really knows, hey. Does that make sense? So what the Bhagavatam is doing is cutting through these layers so that we're very clear what actually is the goal and actually how everything falls in line. Because the point is, if you don't actually understand bhakti and renunciation, how are we going to perform dharma? Because when we look at the world, we're trained to look at the world and see sense gratification. We're trained that that's all there is. Right? Isn't it? That's the whole point. It's just about sense gratification. It's what you drive, what you wear, where you live, who you hang out with. It's just about sense gratification. All the billboards, it's about sense gratification. Very rare it's about something else, economics, and we don't even notice those ones, but the CEOs do. Right? But what's their point of getting the money? To enjoy. Right? So we have to know that the material world is Krishna's. The potency by which it is attractive is Krishna. The potency by which we can perceive it is Krishna. So, and the item itself, that it is actually enjoyable, that's Krishna's potency. So Krishna is all three levels of existence of us and anything we're looking at. So that means if it's all Him, that means it should be connected back to Him. That's real knowledge. What Daksha is presenting is the level below that. Right? Because Dharma is technically just the most pious set of rules on how you can function in the universe and not go against God's laws. That's what Dharma is. But Saddharma is understanding that that's like that because it's God's arrangement that we are in this material manifestation so we can awaken our love for Him. So Narad Muni is talking Saddharma. Prajapati Daksha is only talking Dharma. So we don't need Dharma. We don't have the qualification. I mean, literally, we do not have the qualification. It'd be like 3-year-olds, checking out the brochure for getting into, the quantum physics program in the top university in the world. That's Malechas and Yavanas looking at Dharma. But looking at Saddharma, every soul has the qualification. The reason in 50 years we're not following Varnashram is because it's too elevated for us. It's not because, it doesn't work. It's too elevated for us. We're still trying to figure out 2 + 2 is 4. And some are arguing, no, but that's just your perspective. You could look at it as 5. That's where we're at. Does that make sense? So the whole point is we're talking about the advanced level of knowledge. Because that's how the Vedic culture works. Vedic culture works like that. Even the Western was better before. You started university when you were 12 before. They didn't waste time. They started university at 12. You graduated when you were 30. You did your BA for 6 years. And then your higher degree for 12 years. That was how all the universities in the world worked. Now they make it cheap because they're just trying to make money. But before it was about character. A BA was meant so you would become a gentleman. It wasn't that you got a job with a BA. You were considered a gentleman, an educated gentleman. Your master's or PhD, that got you your job. So just the standard, even in the West, has dropped so greatly. But due to Maya illusion, everyone thinks they're advancing. Right? Everything's going down, but everyone thinks that they're going up. What to do? I guess if you sit upside down in a roller coaster, when you're going down, it looks like you're going up, right? So something like that, right? Does that make sense? So in other words, Bhakti already includes the Dharma that you're talking about. So if we actually focus on pure devotion, the Dharma necessary is there. But it is a process we have to be trained. We can't say, okay, it's valuable to have seminars on training and management and money and that, but not have training in Bhakti. Does that make sense? So we have, like Prabhupada says, we're an education movement, and education has become valuable as learning occupations. But as learning Bhakti, that's old hat. That's very 90-ish. You understand? So, therefore, you can't separate them. You can't separate bhakti and dharma. You can't separate renunciation and dharma. Dharma means I'm doing it because it's what I'm supposed to do, and the result is not from me. That's dharma. You can't do it without renunciation. So if we militate against renunciation, then we don't even do dharma. And when we militate against the Vedic, we're not even doing dharma. And we're not necessarily doing a great job of even the modern scenario. Does that make sense? Is that okay? In other words, like you say, there must be a balance. But if you take pure bhakti, the balance is already there. Pure bhakti is the balance. Is that okay? Something else? Okay. Oh, over here.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your lecture, Maharaj, and very nice answer to the question. We know that on Tuesday it's Akshaya Triti, and I would like to know...
Today is Akshaya Triti?
No, on Tuesday.
Oh.
On Tuesday, between 5:53 and 12:20. So, I don't know, is that something which we as Gaudiya Vaishnavas should consider, and what should we do then?
What, Akshaya Tritiya?
Yeah.
It is on the calendar, no? And the calendar at the top of it says Vaishnav, right?
Yeah.
It didn't say, it wasn't the, it wasn't the Ayers calendar for, Panchopasana activities, right? So, for us, it's when, I think it's when Treta Yuga started. So Treta Yuga brings in the element of sacrifice in that, because before that was meditation. So that means then there's action. It means we're physically applying the sacrifice. Before that, the sacrifice was done in the way of just mentally, because they had the qualifications. So in Satya Yuga, they could just meditate on the Lord, and it would work. But starting with Treta Yuga, then there's the need to apply the physical action of sacrifice, that whatever I do with the body must also be connected, because that's going to be the main. Because before meditation, you do things with the body, but that's very minor compared to the major of the mind. But now, the body becomes more of an activity. So then, but that's applied then in a ritual that regulates our physical activity, right? So the mind is included, but the physical activity becomes prominent. So then, you decide whether that's important. Right? Then the aspect of that's also when the Chandan Yatra starts. So in Puri, then that's when then the Lord would apply that festival, because it's technically that's the beginning of the hottest time of the year. So it's a really nice time to sit covered from head to toe in sandalwood paste. Is that okay?
I just heard that it's a moment of something with success, whatever you want to achieve.
That's the lower. It means it's like this. Do this activity. It pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Means who's a person, Bhagavan, right? Okay, that's nice. But then you step down from that. Do this because it pleases the Supreme Lord, who is God, the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of the cosmos or the universe. Okay. Okay, you're not into that. Do this because if you do, it's in line with the mechanics of the universe on the level of the piety of the demigods, and that you will benefit. Don't care for that. Do this because it follows the laws of nature, and by doing that, then things will work out nicely for you, because then you're following at least the universal laws. Don't like that. Do this because it's nice. Don't like that. Do this because you'll benefit. Don't like that. Do this, otherwise you'll go to hell. So that's the range that you can choose from. So what's recommended is it pleases Krishna. Why? So why are you successful? It pleases Krishna. Right? Does that make sense?
So what do you recommend if you?
So you understand? Then you go back to the mechanics
Yeah.
of it.
No,
See,
if I want to please Krishna in that moment, in that day, what would you recommend me to do then?
Generally, there's 5 main recommended activities, right? Chanting Hare Krishna, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and the association of devotees, worshipping the deities, living in the Dham, taking prasad, worshipping Tulsi. These are the recommended processes. And then, after that, then whatever it is that you can to connect to Krishna. So in other words, what's of value to you that you would like to do nicely for Krishna? You haven't been able to get it started. Try then. See if it works. Okay? Anything else? Yes. You have this thingamajig.
Maharaj, you mentioned that when somebody are in moksha, then if he's lucky, they can.
If he is
Lucky?
lucky.
Yeah.
If he's lucky means they
This
so
is
you're talking
my-
about
Use it.
roulette here, or
I know, that is my question. Because you mentioned if he's lucky, he got for Bhakti, or he moved to Bhakti. So what is lucky?
It means you got association of pure devotees who then you see that that's what's important, rather than you ended up on Facebook and ended up just gossiping all day. Right? And even there, if you're lucky, you bump into some pure Vaishnavas who are talking about preaching and other things on Facebook and get some benefit. So lucky means you are interested in serving the Lord and you get the Lord's mercy. Right? Because where does the word lucky come from? Right? It's the English it's the English accepting the Bengali pronunciation of Lakshmi. You understand? Bengalis don't say ksha, they say ka. So they say lucky. That means Lakshmi. So that means, serving the Lord. So that's you're lucky when you're serving the Lord. If you're not serving the Lord, technically you're not lucky. Is that okay? Yes.
So, Prabhupada said we should shoot with rhinoceros.
Yes.
So when is that wise and when is that stupid in the matter of renunciation?
When or why is it stupid in renunciation? Means you're trying for your best. You don't try for way beyond your best. So, in other words, shoot the rhinoceros means who's out shooting a rhinoceros, right? So it's not that old lady, and that that thing with the 4 legs on it and all that. It's some guy who basically has the skill to do it, but it would be pushing the limits. So that's what it is. So one's always trying to do one's best. That's shooting the rhinoceros. So for each person, their rhinoceros may be a very different size. But in any case, it's still... Is that okay? So that means everybody can make the attempt. Because then if it doesn't work, it comes back to something, okay, that's standard, and then you try again.
I'm just saying it seems like Daksha's complaint had manifested quite vividly in the heart of people.
Yes, no, that's why it's in the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is only mentioning what can happen in the community of devotees. If it wasn't that, it's not here. You want different things, that's Mahabharata, that's, other literatures. But what can happen in the society of devotees, that's what Bhagavatam talks about. So that's what it happens. Like that. So that's why we have to take the essential point. Because it's not about the secondary aspect. Right? Because for us, the secondary aspect, we would have to be quite expert at Dharma Shastra to be able to discuss this point. And which is not necessarily a popular subject matter. Right? So, but on the platform of bhakti, and the difference between pure bhakti and mixed bhakti, the aspects in the yoga ladder of karma, jnana, dhyana, bhakti, all these we can discuss and try to figure out exactly where we are, and therefore where's our rhinoceros. Okay? Okay. So end here. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Jainata Gaura Premanandi.